Yo, what is up? We are back. It is ManUp Friday, and we are talking about the importance of the role fathers play in their daughters' lives. And tonight we're going to discuss some practical tips and advice for helping our daughters grow into womanhood and what that looks like. So, welcome. If you are new to this page and you're checking it out, and you're seeing this video for the first time, my name is Mike King, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check this out. So the purpose of this page is to take everything that I've learned along my crazy 38 years of life of dysfunction and some sadness and some tough lessons, as well as a lot of good things, don't get me wrong, and share that wisdom with you. Why? Because as men, we have a higher calling on our lives as fathers, as husbands, as friends, and as leaders in our community. And the world is the way it is today because we haven't been living up to that, right? We've been falling short, massively short, for a whole bunch of reasons that I've talked about for this entire year. Not only on ManUp Friday, but on lots of other days. But, you know, manhood is under attack. Masculinity is under attack. And there's a little part in there that I really can't blame them because we haven't carried that mantle. We haven't stewarded that those responsibilities correctly. And if we're going to change that and go back to when there was honor, right? Honor, that's a word that's rarely used in society today. But if we're going to go back to that time when there was honor associated with being a man and with masculinity, we as men have to look ourselves in the mirror and be determined that we are going to change our behaviors in the way that we operate and influence those around us. And it starts with ourselves, and then it starts in our home, and then it spreads like a ripple effect out into the community in our circle of influence. So if you notice over my shoulder, we do have a Christmas tree up. We are that family. My wife, God bless her, she would celebrate Christmas 365 days of the year, but there's no problem with that. So we're going to get into tonight's content, but before we do, I just want to pay respects because this is not mine, right? But this was a huge pivot in my life. I cannot stress the importance that this information had on my life and how it changed the trajectory of my life. And all this comes from The Quest for Authentic Manhood by Dr. Robert Lewis. And we were living in Chicago at the time, and our marriage pretty much went nuclear because of some stupid stuff that I did, and my wife wanted to leave me. And it was a frequent experience of me coming home from work and finding all of her bags packed in the middle of the floor, and her telling me, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how I'm ever going to trust you again. I don't know how to love you. All of that, like, right? I destroyed my marriage so quick, man. And we've been on a 12-year journey to build that back up. And I was in a bad place because I didn't know if I wanted to be married. If I didn't know if my marriage was worth it, right? If my marriage was worth the fight. And I wasn't sure who I was as a person, doubting myself, just all these things from my past coming up, right, and causing me all kinds of fear, all kinds of doubt. If you've been around and you know my story, right, I thought I was going to end up just like my dad. I was going to be that person, and I was fighting with everything inside of me not to be, but it seemed hopeless at times. And I got hooked up. Some guy at my work told me about this church, and I just went there, and I saw that they had this group going on, and something told me to sign up, and I got thrown at a table with 6 other guys who were all at different periods in their life. One was coming out of a divorce. One had just gotten remarried. One was going through a super nasty divorce. One had been, married for like 30 something years, or two of them had been married for like 30 something years, and then there was one guy who wasn't married, and then there was me, right? And we had to get real quick, because this workbook doesn't beat around the bushes. This stuff we talk about is like a straight punch to the face, right? Like, wake up and realize the things that happened in your past are affecting you as a person today, and how you show up in all those areas of your life. And until you're ready to go back and deal with those things and rip those roots out and let that healing take place, as scary as it may be, you're not going to be the best husband that you can be. You're not going to be the best father that you can be. You're not going to be the best friend you can be. You're not going to be the best leader in your community or at work that you can be. You just won't, because you're carrying around that baggage, and it takes hard work to drop those bags off and say, I'm not picking them back up. I'm done, right? And I had to go through that, and this workbook took me through that because of the questions that it poses, because of the material, and then it gives you the tools that we've been going through on how to live these things out in your life and how to make a difference. And I don't know about you, but I'm literally changing my family tree, right? Didn't have a dad growing up, divorce, womanizing, all that type of stuff. Got a son who doesn't know his real dad. I mean, I was just talking to someone about that today. Think about how powerful that is, right? Like, God is taking these two stories and bringing them back together and healing both of us, me and my son, at the same time, right? It's just incredible what happens when we're willing to do the hard work and do these things. So let me share my screen, and we'll jump right into it here. Alright, shabam. Okay. So this is Fathers and Daughters, part 2. Little picture of me and my little girl MK from when we were in New York a couple summers ago. And this girl is a whippersnapper ball of energy ever since she was a baby. From the moment she's up, she's go until she crash and burns at the end of the night. She's definitely has my energy, coupled with her mom's amazing heart for people and animals, and I couldn't be more proud of who the person she is. And she has a ridiculous gift when it comes to art and crafts and painting, and just the way that her mind works around those things. And it's going to be interesting and awesome to see what she does with that gift. So I'm going to do a quick review. I'm going to fly through this stuff so we can get through tonight. But last week we talked about the 3 challenges for daughters in the introduction of the new womanhood, the challenge of a new supreme pursuit in a woman's life, going from being at home to a career, the challenge of the decline of the traditional feminine values and how that shaped things, the challenge of the rise of the absent mom, which is starting to appear more and more, and how we talked about just some stats. 92% of daughters of single-parent homes, motherless or fatherless, are likelier to end up divorced themselves, 164% likelier to have a premarital birth, and 53% chance of marrying as a teenager, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. And then we talked about what dad contributes to his daughters, right? So if we're there in our daughters' lives, they're going to grow up and they're going to be secure in their identity as a woman. They're going to be affirmed that they are good enough, which is so important, especially today in the messaging that is promoted to women, in media, in relationships. I mean, I can't tell you, it's like, my daughter is now in 3rd grade, and it's like easily a weekly occurrence, if not more, of her coming home and talking about how other girls told her, she was this or she was that. It's crazy. right? It's crazy. They can easily relate to the opposite sex, which is extremely important, especially to us as men in our relationships with our wives. And they often have a highly fulfilling sex life with their husbands, right? Because sex equals trust. And if they don't trust you, well, then I don't know how to say it. You ain't getting any. So what dad contributes to his daughters if he's not there, right? So often they develop personalities that are insecure, anxious, and have difficulty in forming healthy relationships with men. And I shared last week how it's extremely important. I'll reiterate this about the importance of us doing as men, doing the work on ourselves and dealing with the things we have in our past. And I shared how, because of my dad not being there and the huge hole that I had inside my heart of abandonment and rejection, how I tried to soothe that and fill that with attention from girls. And as a result, I was attracted to girls who were way more aggressive than other girls. So it almost turned the whole pursuit around, right, of a man courting a woman and chasing them, and showing his honor to me, hanging back and then letting them chase me, and all the dysfunction that can happen inside of that, and that I brought to those relationships. And then two, or they become inappropriately self-assertive, angry, and promiscuous. They're 32 more times likely to run away, 20 times likelier to have behavioral disorder traits, 20 times likelier to end up in prison, 10 times more likely to battle addiction, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and there's a bunch more stats to go along with that. So tonight we're talking about practically what can we do as dads for our daughter, right? And the first thing that we can do is we can get with our wife and we can establish a clear definition of what it means to be a real woman. Because I talk about this all the time, but only men can bestow manhood on women. Only men can bestow manhood on another man. And the same goes for a woman. Only a woman can bestow womanhood onto another woman. And that's the importance of us as men getting with our wives and working out and having a clear working definition of what that looks like. So what I'm going to present to you is what Dr. Lewis and his wife came up with, and it serves as a framework like anything when I'm going through this material for us to take and to implement and think about and use in our own lives and adjust to our own situation. So this is what they came up with. A real woman is one who rejects worldly temptations for significance, right? There's all these pulls in the world, not only for women but for men as well, towards significance and what that looks like, what kind of job I have, what kind of car I drive, what kind of house I live in, what kind of clothes I wear, what kind of purse a woman carries around, what kind of shoes, all this stuff that the world says is important, but doesn't mean anything. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But a real woman is one who believes in God's priorities and what He says is important. And at the heart of that is relationship. At the heart of God, the God of the Bible, is relationship, and Him wanting to have a relationship with you. And women intuitively understand the importance of relationship far more than men. And you read any study where they go around and they interview people on their deathbeds, and they don't talk about, I wish I had more money, I wish I had more possessions. Every single one of them, number one priority is, I wish I had more time made more time for the relationships that I had in my life, right? Either with their spouse or their kids or their friends. It all comes back to relationship, and it's extremely important. And then next, a real woman is one who nurtures the next generation. And this takes two forms, right? Nurturing takes time, and kids take nurturing. It's a process. And also, women, just like men, play an extremely important role in bringing along the next generation, right? And just like every man should have a mentor and be a mentor, every woman should have a mentor and be a mentor. And it's the rule of 10. You find somebody to be your mentor that is in the next decade of your life, so that they can help prepare you for the pitfalls and the roadblocks and the things that you experience in that season of life. And then you find someone to mentor that is at least 10 years younger than you, so you can help prepare them for what is next in life and help them. And this is an important part. And you know, my experience has been that women do this way better than men, just because they understand the importance of relationships better than we do as men. And then finally, a real woman is one who expects God's greater reward for their life. God has great stuff for us, things for us to accomplish, things for us to take part in. We will be seed planters, and we will be the linchpin and the pivot point for several people throughout our lives, whether we realize the magnitude or not that we have on other people. From a simple asking somebody how they're doing that day, right, and completely changing the course of their life, to, I don't know, donating some money to somebody who is maybe homeless and giving them the opportunity to bring dignity to their life because they can, have a sleep in a warm room, put some food in their belly, and take a shower. So all kinds of examples, right? So next, how we do this is we help mom stay home with the children, especially in their critical formative years, if at all possible, right? What a gift that we can give to not only our spouses, but to our kids, if we can put ourselves in a position to be able to do that, and for an extended period of time, at least to have that choice available. And it's increasingly becoming harder today with everything that's going on. But one of the ways that we can do that is we can, especially early on in our marriage, is to all the younger guys that are watching this, is avoid debt, right? Be responsible with your money, so that you have these types of options. And statistics and studies show that 75% of everything a child will know, they will learn by 5 years old. Their sense of trust, their sense of identity, their sense of communication, their sense of relationship, and their intelligence. And despite all the data showing this, unfortunately today, especially in American society, mom and dad are leaving during these years, whether it's divorce or having to put their kids in daycare. We're not being there like we should. And I'm not putting this down, I'm just giving this perspective, right? Because if we can facilitate an environment where this can take place, we are giving our kids the best soil to take root into, to grow in. Everything shows that, right? We don't do our kids any favors if we can't be there for them as much as possible, right? And obviously that looks different for every family. I understand that. And then next, we want to support, honor, and cheer for feminine values in both our wife and our daughters. And that's important because our kids are watching everything that we do. right? They're watching dad and seeing how he's treating mom. What does he say to mom? Is he affectionate towards mom? Is he helpful? Is he rude? Is he abusive? Right? They're taking our cues from us, and then they're bringing those cues into their relationship when they're older. The conversations that took place or didn't take place. The affection that was given or wasn't given. You know, these are all important things to think about. And then D, he dates his daughter and stays involved in their lives on a personal level. And Robert Morris, he suggested that you date your daughter once a month. So gut check. I do not do this. Me and my daughter, we do hang out and we do things. But I do need to do a better job of having more frequency in a one-on-one relationship with my daughter, right? Because how we date our daughters is going to set the stage so that they know what to expect when they go out into the world and they start dating themselves, right? And we want to set that bar high, extremely high, right? The man that my daughter marries one day she will know what to look for, and she will understand what real love looks like. Encourages and participates in ceremonies celebrating true femininity. So just like we had manhood ceremonies, and we talked about the 4 stages throughout a young man's life of where we have the opportunity to encourage him and welcome him into manhood and making that something that they will never forget. We also have the ability to do that for our daughters and to have that take place, right? So now I'll share what those looked like from Robert Morris's standpoint. So the first one, just like young boy, took place at puberty. So what he did is he shared those tapes, the Dobson tapes that we talked about regarding sex and maturity and development and all that stuff. So mom and daughter watched that. His wife took the lead role in making that happen and having those conversations. But when that was done, what he did is he took his daughter out for a fancy dinner along with mom, and he gave his daughter a locket for purity, right? And then he challenged her along with mom of what that looks like, and then reminded them of real love. So I don't know what your feelings are about that, but I think that that's awesome. You know, and as someone who didn't do that and abused that gift, you know, I look back, right? Like people say they have no regrets, and for the most part I don't. I have one, and that's that, right? If I could go back and never have used that and only given it to one person, the gift that you can only give one time, the only gift you can ever give one time to one person, or not to one person, but that you can give one time, and why not give it to your spouse? And then 2, the second ceremony takes place when they leave home, and what happened there was they gave their daughter a cross, and then on this cross that she wore around her neck, it had the 4 points of womanhood that they had come up with. And then there was another ceremony when the daughter graduated from college, and what that looked like was they took that cross and then they placed a small diamond in the middle of it to represent her entering into the full brightness of womanhood. And I know it doesn't say it up here, but just like for the manhood ceremonies, you know, these were the tokens or the symbols to seal in that day, but they also had other things that went along with it, right? They involved people that were important in their daughter's life and that could speak about those type of things, what it looks like to be a real woman, or what you want to think about as you move into the next stage of your life. What you want to think about and how you want to prepare for going away to college. All those types of things, right? Giving advice, sharing wisdom, pointing out pitfalls, and then blessing that person as well as praying for them. And then the fourth ceremony, the fourth and final one, took place at the rehearsal dinner, just like Dad did for his son, and told the journey and the story of manhood, and then called his son into manhood, and challenged him to accept that and walk that out. Mom stands up at the rehearsal dinner, and she does the same thing for her daughter. And then the goal of all of this is to help our daughters formulate lives that they can live with no regrets, right? And at the core of this is our responsibility as dad to initiate this journey, right? This successful journey that they can take place. And who doesn't want their kid to not have the best journey possible? So I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight, and I hope that you don't just let this be a flash in the pan moment, that you're showing yourself to be studious and approved as a father and in that role, and you're taking notes and you're discussing these things with your wives, and you're talking about how you can implement some of these same things in your child's life to set the stage and to prepare them, right? And not only them, but the traditions that you are setting for the generations to come, right? We just talked about on Tuesday, and I challenged you to think about what will not only your kids say, but what will other people who knew you say at your funeral about you. And then one of my mentors posted on that comment and even took it a step further, and he's like, what will your grandkids say about you, right? What will you be leaving to those left behind? And I can't think of a better tradition to leave behind than this, right? Because I talk about it all the time. You go into a room with men, you can ask 4 different men when they became men, and you'll get 4 different answers. Because in American society, there is no rite of passage for a man. And I'm 99% true that there's no rite of passage for a woman either, right? So we have a great responsibility in being able to change that and make that look different for our kids. So as always, if you need anything, hit me up. I love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow for Shout Out Saturday. Have a good night.